Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to this very uplifting series I've decided to start, wherein we're going to take a look at each of the Straw Hats and if they each were to die a horribly gruesome death at some point before the end of the One Piece story. Today's video is going to be about if Nami were to die.
Okay, let me say right off the bat, is there a scenario where I can reasonably imagine Nami dying? I think the only scenario I can picture is like, if a horrible accident happens. I don't see any other way. Okay, well, let's see.
I have a feeling this one's going to be a little bit more emotional than the Zoro one. Not to say that Zoro dying is not emotional, but as I said in that video, it's something that you sort of expect a little bit because Zoro's death has at least been foreshadowed a couple of times. Most notably the time where
he literally saw death.
Literally told Zoro, also like, hey, if you take this pain bubble, you will die, and Zoro went ahead with it. So even then, and then of course there's the scene just in the last couple of episodes where Zoro literally meets the Grim Reaper. So, yeah, with Zoro, it's, like, expected a little bit. But with Nami and a lot of the other Straw Hats, for that matter, their deaths would kind of come more out of left field.
Yeah, exactly.
And if Oda were to go that direction with it, I feel like they would hit a lot worse than if, like, Zoro were to die, or Sanji were to die, or Jinbei.
Also, hold on. Let me fix this.
It's sort of like, and I brought this up when I talked about Zoro sacrificing himself. All of the Straw Hats, I feel, if they had to, would sacrifice themselves for Luffy's dream, okay? If push really came to shove. But there's some of the Straw Hats you can actually see that happening in the story from what was set up with their characters, right? And the ones that I think make the most sense are the frontline fighters. So we're talking Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei for that reason. Some arguments I've seen for Usopp make a little bit of sense, but we'll cover that when we get to his video. But
with Usopp, I think it's going to be a Legend of the Sea angle, right? That he actually fulfills all of his stories, and he actually becomes the legend who sort of makes the King of the Pirates. That's the only way I can see with Usopp, right? But like with the others, I literally have no idea. If someone else is getting the axe, it has to be like for maximum emotional damage. You know, it comes out of completely left field. No one expects it, and that's what makes it horrible.
But now we're talking about Nami, though, and one thing I want to make very clear is that I'm not going to do this in the sense of every single video is one of the Straw Hats sacrifices themselves for Luffy's dream. You know, like in order to reach Laugh Tale or in order to obtain the One Piece, there has to be a death. Like this is like the Soul Stone from Endgame. I did that in, or is it Infinity War? I guess Infinity War and Endgame. But I did that with Zoro because it's been set up beforehand. Like he literally almost did, like he was willing to sacrifice himself for Luffy. Okay, so that's why I did it with Zoro. But I don't want that to be like the case every single time or every single video we discuss that. Like this Straw Hat sacrifice himself for Luffy, okay?
That like the simple answer is if Luffy and X Straw Hat are locked in a room and they have to sacrifice themselves for Luffy to become the King of the Pirates, X Straw Hat sacrifices themselves for Luffy. That is, I think, a universal concept. So yes, I don't think it's really worth bringing up. The death does not need
to be sacrificial. The death could just literally be a death. Like, a good example of this, and one example we might just roll with here because it did just recently happen, well, during Wano it happened.
An idea just popped into my mind. You know who's the only villain we don't know where he is? Arlong. You know what would be maximum emotional damage? If Arlong comes back, and we see another Luffy help me moment, and Luffy doesn't help her. Now that would be maximum emotional damage.
Was the scene when Nami was facing off against Ulti. Or rather, it was Usopp and Nami fighting against Ulti and her brother Page One. And in the first stage of that fight, when they were in the bathhouse,
that was perfect, by the way.
Clearly, it was apparent that Ulti and Page One had the upper hand. Usopp and Nami had some skills.
Isn't Arlong in Impel Down? Well, I mean, he should be, right? But Impel Down was torn apart. So is he still there? I have no idea. Because we haven't seen him. I have no idea where he is.
Like, you know.
But with Ulti, yeah, the fact that Nami just tanked all the hits, and she was just like, no, I'm sure he will be, right? Because Ulti was saying, say that he won't be the King of the Pirates, and Nami was just like, no, I'm not going to say it, because he will. The GOAT.
Get the edge in the battle a little bit, but at the end of the day, it just became very painfully clear. Ulti was stronger than Nami, and Usopp was no match for Page One. And so it was looking like they both were not going to make it. And there was a moment during that fight when Ulti had Nami dead to rights, and she was pretty banged up, and she was bleeding and bruised. And Ulti kind of looked at her and says, you know, I'm tired of your captain always going around saying he's going to be king of the pirates. You know, we all know our captain
this is such
of
a
the
good
Beast
moment.
Pirates, Kaido. He's the one that's closest to being king of the pirates. He's the one that's going to kill your captain. So Ulti kind of gave Nami an ultimatum. And she was like, all right, listen, if you can admit that your captain, Luffy, is not going to be king of the pirates, if his dream is just going to be extinguished right here, then I'll let you live. But if you continue on spouting that nonsense, just like your captain is up there, I'm going to end your life right here. I'm just going to headbutt you full force, and I'm just going to crack your skull, and you're going to be dead. And so Nami, this was a very powerful scene, all right? Nami
it's one of my
is at a
favorites in the
moment
entire
where
raid.
She literally thinks she's going to die, okay? Like, you see it in her face. She is crying. She is bawling. Okay.
Like, I don't know what it is. I'm a suffering enjoyer, all right? When a character is completely overpowered, they're completely helpless, and we get like a close-up emotional scene, I love those. I love those. That is why I love Sabaody. Each and every single person on Sabaody was completely helpless. That's what made it perfect. The scenes we see of people stretching out their hands towards Luffy, perfection. Nami asking for help, perfection. Robin saying that she wants to live, perfection. We need more of these scenes where it's not just like Luffy kicking someone's ass. We need scenes where someone is actually just like dead to rights. Exactly. I love these. They're great.
And she looks right at Ulti. And Usopp's off to the side, and Usopp's also kind of fading in and out of consciousness. He just had, you know, his bones broken and stuff, and he's on the ground, and he's like, just, Nami, just say it. It's okay to lie every once in a while to save your own skin. You know, all you got to do is just say Luffy's not going to be king of the pirates, and then Ulti will probably just throw you to the ground, and then you'll be able to squirm away, and then who knows, maybe we could heal up, we could find Chopper or somebody, we can heal, and then we can maybe come back for a counterattack or something, but just don't throw your life away right now. There's a way out. You know, Ulti's literally giving you a way out. And Nami continues to cry and bawl. You know, she's teary-eyed, snot dripping down her nose, but she looks at Ulti straight in her eyes, and she still says, Luffy's gonna be king of the pirates, because Nami, first of all, that is genuinely what Nami believes, all right? That's not something that she just says as like a motivational poster, like, hang in there, or something like that. No, Nami genuinely believes in Luffy 100%, that he will be king of the pirates, okay?
I mean, absolutely.
Nami is...
the scene of her with the straw hat and just thank you, I think that's the only panel you need to see. It's like, obviously, you know?
Indebted to Luffy for what he did at Kokoyashi, for defeating Arlong, for even after Nami, you know, expressly told them, you know, stay away from me, I'm done with you guys, I just used you. Luffy still believed in her, and Luffy still understood the pain that she was bearing all herself after Nojiko explained everything. And so, you know, I'm sure that scene was running through Nami's head in that moment, when she was facing down Ulti's headbutt, and it was just like, this is it, game over. She was like, you know what? I was at the end of my ropes at Arlong Park, and Luffy believed in me. And even when I thought all was lost, he still carried that torch, and he was able to defeat Arlong even when I thought it was hopeless, and he saved my whole town. All right? I am not going to abandon him here. And it is a thing. It is honestly...
I mean, I think it's also just, like, not just a personal angle for her, but, like, I think it's the town angle, right? Because keep in mind, Nami was working to buy back her entire village. You know, that is exactly what she was doing. She was caring for her entire village. And then Luffy came and not only helped her personally, but also saved the entire village. So I think there's, like, a lot of indebted... what's the word? I guess she just feels indebted to him, even more so than just on a personal level, I guess.
A question like Usopp brought up, like, all you got to
also,
do
yes,
is just
the Enero
say
fight.
He's not going to be king of the pirates, and you'll make it out of this. All right, but Nami just literally cannot bring herself to say that. All right, it would be like if she did admit that, if she did lie to just cover herself, like her own skin or whatever, she would probably feel like that's not right. I would feel like I'm losing part of myself there. Okay, and then she says it, and he's like, Luffy will be king of the pirates. She doesn't say it super seriously. She doesn't say it like she doesn't like have a JoJo face all of a sudden, like Luffy will be king of the pirates. You know, nothing like that. She's crying. She's scared. And then, you know, right before ulti attacks, then I believe that's when Otama showed up, or and in the Koma Inu, something happened there and distracted.
I know a lot of
them,
people
so
like
Nami...
say that moments like these, right, where Nami is just crying and like refuses to say it, even though, you know, you put in the meme here. Why is Nami not lying? Is she stupid? You know, the ironic meme. But I think like moments like these are exactly what the point is. You know, the fact that Nami is unwilling to sort of surrender her beliefs is exactly what makes the crew special. You know, not even in a situation like this, they're willing to give up an inch, you know, because if they do, well, now they've moved the goalpost, if you will, right? And with each and every single time, it will just get moved and moved and moved and moved. Whereas with this crew, they don't. Plain and simple. It's like an absolute statement. So, I love these moments. I love them.
Die. But it was very close. So let's just roll with that. Let's just say that happened. Let's say nobody showed up to distract Ulti or anything. Let's say Nami tells Ulti to her face, Luffy's going to be king of the pirates, and she's just like, oh, you. And then just turns into Pachycephalosaurus mode, and then just boom. And then that's it. That's it. Just Nami's dead. Just
Imagine.
That's it. Nami is dead. Now, what that means for the rest of the attack on Onigashima, well, Nami and Usopp arguably did the least amount of stuff out of all of the Straw Hats there. You know, Nami did eventually take out Ulti with a lightning bolt, but that was after Big Mom blasted a cannon, like a laser cannon.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think they did the least amount of DPS, if you will, but they kited the boss. You know, they kited around Big Mom, which actually turned out to be super important. So
straight through Ulti's chest. So you could argue that did
support.
Most of the work there. And then Page 1 was taken out by Big Mom herself. So Ulti was technically defeated by Nami, but with a lot of help from Big Mom. And Usopp didn't actually have any takedown of any of the members of the Tobiropo during that battle, during that war. So honestly, you could say that most of the rest of Onigashima kind of goes the same way. Yeah, Nami was there to help Otama out and give her some confidence when she was delivering the speech to the Smile users and stuff. But if anything, honestly, the death of Nami at that moment, I feel would, like, really light a fire under all of the Straw Hats.
Yeah,
like,
I think it would be that, right? It would be if someone brought out her body, which is like mega morbid, but if someone did, it would just be like a crushing thing. Sort of like they announced Luffy's defeat, right? They announced Luffy's defeat and everyone was like, either people were like, no way, or people were like, well, what's the point? We've lost. That's it. You know? And then obviously Momo says that it's all right. If something like that happened to Nami, I think it'd be a lot of emotional damage. As to how that goes after that, who knows?
Sanji, and we'll get to Sanji in a moment.
Sanji would pop off.
This, but I feel like just in the heat of the moment,
Sanji would rush up to Kaido and solo him. It'd be great.
As soon as the Straw Hats were to find out that one of their own died, and it was Nami that straight up died, I mean, they would feel a brief flash of, like, you know, sorrow and just grief. But I think in the middle of this battle, they would channel all of that into just rage and just, like, revenge. We need to just decimate this place, okay? And honestly, that, like, if that news reached Luffy at that time, which I believe at the time Nami and Usopp were fighting Page 1 and Ulti, that was still... I don't even know if it was at the moment when Luffy had reached the roof yet, or if the Scabbards were still fighting Kaido.
Yeah, I don't remember
regardless of the exact timing here, as soon as Luffy's group reaches the roof, you know, you got Luffy, Zoro, Kid, Law, and Killer all about to fight Kaido. Like, not so much for Kid and Law and everybody, but, like, Luffy especially is going to be way more pumped up and wrathful. Oh my god, I was just thinking how would that have affected Gear...
It's kind of hard to say. I think Luffy might be even more reckless and get knocked out faster, right? So it's kind of hard to say how that would play out. Because Luffy already had the Kinemon moments where he was almost certain that Kinemon would die. You know? Obviously Kinemon compared to Nami, nothing. But still, he did already have sort of that wake-up moment, if you will. So it's hard to say whether he would become even more reckless and get defeated faster, or he would receive the biggest damage buff of all time. It's one or the other.
Fifth. Because when Luffy goes into Gear 5th, he's like, super happy-go-lucky and energetic and fun-loving and everything. He's like, oh my god, this is great. I'm the most free I've ever been. How would that have affected Gear 5th if like Nami were to die and Luffy was aware of this? Dude, it makes me think of like
Would he
an
unlock
alternate
it, though?
dimension where Luffy gets some kind of crazy rage power-up. Like,
Would he even unlock Gear 5 at that moment, though? That's an interesting conversation to be had, right? Because isn't the awakening when like your mind catches up to your body or something, right? So what if Luffy is fighting in pure rage, and it's not that his mind catches actually up with his body, or I think it's your body that catches up with your mind. It's one or the other. It's something like that. So if Luffy is distracted by this loss and he is powered by pure rage, could he even achieve this higher level? Who knows? Who knows? Because this wouldn't be rage on the level of fighting Lucci. This would be...
you know, and like he just defeats Kaido that way, but I probably wouldn't like that. I wouldn't really go with that. Like Luffy gets a rage power up because Nami died and then defeats Kaido with that.
That wouldn't be
Gear
cool.
5th kind of needs to happen in order for Luffy to defeat Kaido. But it might be a different kind of Gear 5th. I'm not really sure. Or it might be a weird thing where Luffy goes into Gear 5th and he's so happy and he's just like, Nami died, and yet for some reason I can't stop laughing. This is...
Can you imagine just like bloodthirsty, cold, laughing Luffy? Oh my god, that would be stuff of nightmares.
Weird. You know, it might be something like that. I don't know, because Gear 5th is we still don't know a lot of stuff about that. But anyway, let's just assume, you know, Kaido and Big Mom still...
My guy straight up becomes the Joker, is what that would be. My life wasn't a tragedy, it was a comedy.
fall in the hole. They are defeated. The Straw Hats and the Samurai Alliance win. But now the post-Wano arc is completely different. It's way more somber now.
Oh, it's just
okay, the
mourning.
Straw Hats are not happy. The Straw Hats are not, like, jumping for joy here because Nami has died. Okay? If anything, okay, tell you what. Not sure how I feel about Luffy getting the Rage power-up, but, like, Sanji getting the Rage power-up. Like, Sanji might be able to skip over a lot of the crap that happened with him, and his, like, moment where he was just like, I'm not sure if I'm really Sanji or if I'm a member of the Germa or my personality. Like, all of that might go by the wayside, and he might just, like, go into Ifrit Jambe and just defeat Queen way earlier just to take out his rage there. I mean, that would literally be Sanji, if anything. But you know how at the end of Wano, we had a moment where we kind of skipped over a lot of, like, death? You know, like, Ashura Doji died and Izo died.
Yeah, like, their deaths are literally just like, well, anyway, and we move on. What?
And they didn't even really talk about it all too much. We just had a scene at the tomb or the shrine in Ringo where they just kind of mention, oh yeah, Ashura and Izo are dead. You know, and that was just kind of it. I kind of have a feeling like we would get way more of that, like those funeral rites and everything. We would see not just...
I don't think we'd be having a party. I'll say that. I don't think we would get a party at the end. Or Momo running after Zoro and saying, oh, let's train or whatever. I think it'd be very, very morbid.
Just Ashura and Izo, but Nami as well. Like, all the people that have died there, you know? And the question is, what would the Straw Hats do now that Nami is gone, right? So, like I said, this is very different than if Zoro dies. And I think it's mainly because Zoro, you know, his position as first mate kind of like lent it to be like, all right, if there's anybody on the crew that has to sacrifice himself or die...
I mean, Zoro is the Giga Chad. He fights, right? So if we lose him, the next fight will be massively difficult. If we lose Nami, we might die, like literally as we leave Wano. It's simple as that, you know? Because we don't get to see a lot of it, but like super early on, when they were like sailing through these snowstorms and whatever, Nami was the one like saying, we can't go there, we will die, we need to go this direction, we'll go around it, and that's how we'll survive, you know? That's the whole Grand Line thing. So, oh, and obviously that is even worse in the New World. So without Nami, I mean, would we even leave Wano? Like, would we even survive that? Who knows?
Line of duty, as it were. It would be Zoro first, kind of thing. And Zoro is a frontline fighter. Not to say Nami is weak, or she's not a fighter. She is. But when it comes to frontline fighting,
comparatively,
there's like the
yes.
Monster Trio, or I guess the Monster Quartet now. You know, they're the ones that jump into the fray. You know, you don't have you don't have Nami going up against like Kaido on the roof or anything like that. It's Zoro and Luffy. Okay?
Who knows?
You could also see Jinbei or Sanji maybe, right? But, you know, typically speaking, Nami was always part of the weakling trio, as they were always called, with herself, Usopp, and Chopper. Not to say they're very weak, but compared to, like, Zoro and, you know, Sanji and everything, right? So, the idea of Zoro dying, maybe a little bit more, like, it's easier to take kind of thing. But with Nami dying, that is something that would, like, shock all of the Straw Hats to the point of, like, they would probably not even know what to do after this. Like,
I mean, yeah, they couldn't
all
sail.
of the Straw Hats, if they were to die, would probably have a similar vibe of like, hey, you know, like if Chopper was going to die or if Brook was going to die, they'd be like, if
Brook already died. Too late for that.
we die, just continue the journey on, continue sailing, that kind of stuff, right? So they would all kind of have that, but like, would they even want to after this? You know what I mean? Like, after Nami dies, would they even want to continue sailing? Could they even continue sailing? Nami is the navigator.
Exactly. Like, it's the practical
like,
question.
She's the one that's, and they're in deep in the new world. You know, this isn't like they could just like, we'll just like shotgun it to the next island. We should be fine. Like, no, I mean, this is really, really dangerous.
I mean, like, super early, we hear that Nami has almost a supernatural sense for, like, where to go and how to maneuver, right? This is something we've heard from way back. So there is a very practical implication here of our death.
This is losing your navigator at the last stage of the game where it's super, super treacherous, okay? So, like, and Wano is a very isolated country, too. So the idea that they would have, like, really good navigators in Wano...
I guess the only sort of caveat there is that Jinbei could sort of be a navigator of sorts, you know? Because, I mean, let's not forget, he showed up exactly where he needed to without ever hearing a word about it during the raid. So, you know. It's a theory that's been around since Dressrosa, but Brook's awakening could be the ability to revive more than once.
Is not really feasible here. I know I'm trying to talk about, like, okay, who are they going to replace Nami with? That's not even what I'm talking about here. Like, who's going to replace Nami so they can get to the next island? Like, no, it's literally like, let's say the Straw Hats, after the death of Nami, decide, like, okay, we're done. Like Sanji just, that would...
Like, again, it's for me, it's either we dissolve or we continue because of what we've lost. It's one or the other, right? But then there's the practical question.
That would break him. Like, and he would just, like, the Straw Hats would be, I can imagine a lot of infighting there. And,
I think it'd be akin to the Usopp situation, right? Or we sort of lose a member, and then we're just trying to figure out, like, how do we proceed? Because I think Sanji would be like, well, like, we can't just leave, you know? Like, what do you mean we're gonna keep sailing? And Luffy would be like, no, we need to sail because of what we've lost. I think, yes, we would see a lot of split in opinion there.
I can see a lot of them, like...
I don't want to think about
I can see this literally tearing the crew apart.
Yes.
You know, in a way that I couldn't see Zoro's death tearing the crew apart. I mean, it was feasible that this crew would break up if any of them died, but, like, Nami, I could really see this, okay? When Oda speaks about the Straw Hats as a family, he always refers to, so Nami would have been the sister of the crew, and Robin would be the mother, Frankie would be the perverted grandmother. We all know this structure, right? The family structure, right?
I didn't know this.
They've lost their big sister. You know what I mean? And she was not just a guiding light in the way of being a navigator, like literally guiding them, but she kind of kept everybody on task. You know what I mean? She was the one, like, you listen to Nami. She was effectively the quartermaster of the crew. You know?
Yeah, wasn't she actually the one, like, orchestrating repairs and everything? Because Usopp was obviously doing stuff, but wasn't Nami just, like, walking around and making sure that they're not just goofing around? I seem to remember something like that in early One Piece, because there's even the shots of, like, Luffy, Usopp, and someone else all sitting and, like, fishing or something, right? And then they had people keeping them. I don't remember who it was, though.
Because Luffy on his own is most of the time just hanging out on the deck of the Sunny, or he's eating.
Zoro's
not
sleeping.
Really caring a lot, you know. Zoro's usually sleeping or drinking.
Robin's
the one
reading.
that pulls the reins here. Nami's the one that keeps the crew kind of, like, together when they're out sailing. She's that glue. You know what I mean? She's like, there's a storm approaching, hoist the mizzen mast, we're going port side or whatever. You know, I'm not a ship guy, you know? But so it's like, okay.
Like, that's probably the most important part. The fact that Nami vetoes Luffy. That is probably the most important part. Where she awakens her latent Conqueror's Haki and knocks him out.
Nami's giving orders, everybody shut up and listen kind of thing. And now she's gone. Now, could there be other members of the crew that could fill that? Sure. Robin.
I think it'd be literally as simple as no one wants to fill it. I think it would be literally that. There's a part missing. I don't want to fill this. You know, I don't want to try to step in her shoes.
And I think would do a good job at that. I feel like Jinbei would do a really good job of it.
Jinbei would probably be the glue, just like he was for Luffy in post-war.
You know, but like, I feel like Sanji would just be wrecked to the point where he might not even be able to speak for several days. Like, he would just be completely destroyed by this. Luffy as well. Luffy would probably just be replaying the events of like Arlong Park and stuff over and over again, and he might not be able to move on. Zoro would just be quietly somber. I think Robin would be grieving quite a bit as well.
Oh my god. Can you... Oh my god. Imagine Zoro. Zoro, obviously, just completely silent, just sitting. Obviously, him being torn apart from the inside because, you know, he couldn't protect her, right? And Sanji is annoyed by the fact that Zoro isn't doing anything. Oh my god, the crew would be absolutely torn apart. It would be a bloodbath. Oh my god.
Chopper, Robin, Usopp. Like, I feel like Chopper, Robin, Usopp, Brook, they would all be weeping uncontrollably. Zoro would be very stoic but upset, like a quiet sort of like somberness.
And that would clash with Sanji
Jinbei
immediately.
kind of the same way. And then Sanji's just the broken man. He's just like completely shut down all mental faculties at that point, and just like...
I think with Sanji it would be an absolute cocktail of emotion. He'd be sad, he'd be angry, and everything would just swirl around constantly, and he'd be like annoyed by Zoro because he's just sitting and supposedly not sad enough. It'd be bad. I don't want to think about
Sanji,
this.
You need to eat. Huh? Huh? Oh. Not hungry. Like that, I could picture Sanji doing that. And Luffy,
I can just imagine the scene of him standing with a pan and just burning the food. And someone is just walking in, you're burning it. Oh. And then he's wasting food. Oh no.
kind of similar.
Oh no.
So it's not even about going to the next island. It's like we need to go back to Kokoyashi. We need to tell, like, that's where she needs to be. You know, that's where she needs to be buried, at Kokoyashi.
Oh god.
But how are we going to even get back there? You know, we're on the other side of the world. You know, we don't have a navigator anymore. Like, and they would all, I think, realize pretty quick
He'd make
just
an extra
how
portion.
much they relied on Nami. Like, not that like they took her for granted or anything like that, but like, sailing is completely different
like,
without Nami.
I don't think it's that they take her for granted. I think it's the fact that they rely on her so much that it's just like a natural thing in their brain. You don't actively think about the fact that you have running water. When water stops running, you are confused, right? And I think it's the same thing with Nami for them, right? To an extent, I do think they take her for granted just because she is always there and she always does exactly what they're supposed to do, you know?
And not just in the sense of like, wow, there's, you know, one less of us now. It is like literally way more complex without Nami around. All right. So I don't think they would.
I can even imagine scenes of someone calling for her and her just not being there. Oh no.
I honestly think at this point they would decide to go back to Kokoyashi, and that would be their final journey. They were going to go back to Kokoyashi, tell Genzo and Nojiko and everybody at the village what happened. Oh god. And then when they do finally get there, that's a whole other thing. Because remember the last conversation Genzo had with Luffy?
Luffy promised to keep her safe and bring her back. Oh no.
Where they were at Belmir's grave, and Genzo kind of looked at him and was kind of really serious and like, hey, no matter what you do not make Nami cry. And Luffy's just like, oh, we're not going to make her cry. And Genzo's like, you better not, right? She's been through enough already. The idea of them returning and then to say Nami died, like, that would be... We'll get to that.
Like, with any of the Straw Hats dying, like, this is a scene we would 1,000,000% get. Imagine the Straw Hat ship pulling up to an island. The locals, whoever it is, right? Whether it's Zoro's, like, family or Nami's family or whoever, runs up and everyone walks out stone cold. And then we just have that... What? Where is she? Where is she? And oh no. Oh no.
So
I don't want to think about
they're
this.
going to need to get back to Kokoyashi, but this is easier said than done because they're going to have to either go back through Fishman Island or cross the red line somehow. Probably the easier method would be probably the easier method out of the two would be go back through Fishman Island, but like that is going to be pretty much impossible because Nami was integral in handling those undersea currents.
Yes.
So they would probably have to they would have to find a navigator that could help them. That's the only
I wouldn't even be surprised if someone is like, capture me, take my bounty, do whatever, you bring her back. That's it. You bring her back to Kokoyashi Village. With me, do whatever you want. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's something like that.
way they'd be able to do this. And who would they really have? Okay, so after the battle with Kaido, you got Law and Kid's crew. Now, Kid's crew, they're probably gone. They're not going to help out the Straw
I don't
Hats
think
like
they'd
that.
care at
Kid's
all.
crew knew nothing about Nami, really. I doubt they would even give a shit, honestly. Now, Law, on the other hand, though, Law, I feel, would care, all right? Because they traveled with the Straw Hats for so long. I feel like Law would care that Nami is dead. And also, I think Law would also be kind of moved by the fact of, like, you know, he's traveled with the Straw Hats for so...
I mean, we've seen how Law is with his own crew, right? We have seen that, like, him and Beppo, you know? They have a very strong link between their crew as well. I think seeing Luffy lose someone so close to him, I think Law would care. Kid, however, Kid would be like, ha ha ha, I'm gonna get the One Piece first, and I think he'd be gone.
So long... He knows what they're all about and how energetic and happy and everything they are and how, like, crazy they are. And now seeing them after the death
I think
of
it'd be
Nami
uncanny.
Would, I think that would really affect Law in a big way. Be like, whoa, okay, this is there anything I can do to help you in this moment of grief? You know, something like that I could see Law doing, right? And they would probably say, like, we need to get back to her hometown in the East Blue. We need to get back to Kokoyashi Village. But in order to get there, we're going to need a navigator. We don't have one. We need to go all the way back through Fishman Island and then back through the Calm Belt. Like it's not going to be easy to get back there. And so Law might help them. You know, he would have to put his own dream and his own ambitions on the side for now, but it's also kind of like...
Yeah, that's hard. That's the hard thing with all of the Worst Generation, right? Because I want to say, based on what I know of Law, with his backstory with Korra and everything... He has been through a lot. He understands loss. And he has traveled with Luffy for a very long time. He knows them. I want to say he would travel back. I want to say he would help him. But would he? Because he is still a member of the Worst Generation, and it is still his drive that brought him to Kaido in the first place. He waited for years to start this raid. It's hard to say. I want to say he would help, but I'm not sure.
They just finished... this massive alliance taking down Kaido. Like, they just succeeded in taking down not one, but two members of the Emperors. So Law might also feel a little bit of, you know, like, okay, I'm indebted to them. Like, they helped us take out two Emperors. They lost, like, Law might look at his crew and be like, I have...
And, like, don't forget, Luffy fought, like, right alongside Law to get revenge on Dofi. So there's also a very, very, very personal link there. It's not just taking down Kaido. I think Doflamingo is even more important.
All my crew. Beppo survived this. Sachi, Penguin, Jean Bart, they all survived. I survived. The Straw Hats lost one of their crewmates. Maybe Law might feel like, okay, we'll help you. We'll help you get back to the East Blue. All right, and so now you maybe have the Heart Pirates helping them out where they have a submarine, you know, tie the polar tang to the Sunny or whatever, and you just have to follow us. You know, we'll do all the navigating. You know, we have a great navigator on board, and that's Beppo. And Beppo was able to, I mean, Beppo's...
Actually, yeah, I wouldn't even be surprised if Beppo is the one to convince Law that we're helping them.
the navigator. I mean, that's who he is, and he was able to get them all the way through Fishman Island into the New World, and he's navigating them around. Like, Beppo's pretty good at this. Natural animal instincts, I guess. So, with the Heart Pirates helping them out, I think they could get back through the New World, back through Fishman Island. I mean, this is still a huge undertaking, keep in mind. This would take months, and they could easily get attacked by other pirate crews while that's going down.
Because, I mean, Luffy's an emperor. So, you know that they will be attracting attention regardless.
Things could happen. They're gonna have to dock at islands for like resupplying and stuff. And you know, like there was a moment of grief and like just I'm not sure what to do here. But I feel like eventually they would have to get over it, just because they'd have to, just because the only way to get back to Kokoyashi, you know, this would take forever. And so they would have to fight through it. So provided they don't get destroyed on the way back, let's say they do get back to Kokoyashi, like they do it, all right, and they get there and they dock, and then Nojiko and Genzo and all the people of the island come over and be like, that's the Straw Hats ship. That's the
this
Straw
is exactly
Hats,
what it's
Jolly Roger. Now, the information in Wano is pretty limited. You know, to get out.
They'd all run out cheering, and then they slowly realize what is actually happening.
Out into the bigger world, but then again, you know, a lot of the news got out already that Luffy was the new emperor and everything, like his Gear 5th form that got out, you know. So the information that one of the Straw Hats died might have got out as well. So it's very possible that the people of Kokoyashi already knew. Like they oh, please tell us this isn't true. Nami's not.
Would they report that though? I'm just thinking like from a practical angle. You know? Like, from the news side, what is a bigger headline? I mean, you could combine both of them. Straw Hat Luffy is now an emperor, and he lost one of his crew. You know, in a great fight against Kaido and Big Mom. Maybe. Maybe. Hard to say.
Dead. And then you just have this really just heart-wrenching moment, kind of similar to the moment, like, when in, not Film Red, but in the episodes leading up to Film Red, where Shanks docks at Fuchsia Village after Uta was gone.
And Uta is not there.
And the whole crew is somber as hell. And Shanks is just really, like, quiet. And then Luffy's like, where's Uta? And Shanks is just like, she had to stay behind, Luffy. So imagine that kind of thing where the Thousand Sunny docks at Kokoyashi and all of the villagers are around. Like, Nojiko and Genzo are in tears with, like, is this actually true? And Luffy walks off the Sunny, and his hat is like this, and it's like shaded so you can't really see his eyes, and he just looks somber as all hell. And like at that moment, Nojiko and Genzo like know immediately, but just for obligation they have to ask. They'd just be like Nojiko, I feel like wouldn't even be able to say anything. She'd be so distraught. She would like collapse and start crying.
Exactly. I was about to say, I think Nojiko is given the whole her knees buckle, she falls to the ground, starts crying, and then Genzo, he feels the obligation. He's like, is it true? Is this true? And then everything breaks down. And then it's the worst thing that's ever happened in One Piece.
Genzo would be crying too, but he'd be like, you just got to tell us. Tell us what happened. And I feel like at that moment, Luffy would take off his hat and then like do this and just be like, I am so sorry. I failed you. And then Genzo would collapse as well. And then everybody else in the village that knew Nami would also just start just bawling their eyes out, right? And then we would have, like, I mean, it would be a very nice service where it would be on that ridge just where Bellemere was buried. And you'd have a moment where everybody's kind of lined up. I'm kind of picturing something similar, honestly, like Whitebeard and Shanks here, right? Whitebeard, like Shanks helping out with Whitebeard's funeral.
It's like, it's slowly in my brain. I'm just like, oh my god, why am I thinking about this so in depth?
Ace's funeral and everything, and
I'm just seeing the scenes in my mind play out.
You really want something to like tear at your heartstrings? Okay, how about this? So you have Bellemere's cross overlooking the ocean, and then you have another one right next to it, which is Nami's grave, which is also a cross.
It's
and
fun.
It has like a little Mekon and everything there, and you know everything's like there's some gold coins on there. Like, here, Nami, here's all the gold. You know, a pinwheel, of course, all that kind of stuff. And then Luffy just walks up to the grave and takes off his straw hat, and it's just, I'm sorry I couldn't help you this time. And then Luffy just sets his straw hat on the grave, just like he did with Nami at Arlong Park.
Oh, no.
And then Luffy just walks away, leaving his straw hat on her grave. Because he failed, and he feels like at this point, like
at that point, you know, I do think it overrides his promise to Shanks. Yes, I buy this. I buy Luffy just saying, I failed. I said I will bring this to you with a greater crew than yours. I failed. I did not protect them. That's it. This is where our voyage ends. Oh no.
We lost our navigator. We lost like one of the people that really keeps this crew a crew. That's been with us since like the very beginning almost. And that I think with Zoro dying it would be tough, but I think they would continue on. I think this would break Luffy. And he's not the only he's not the only one in the crew.
Yeah, exactly.
Also,
he failed to become a great pirate.
Nami's not the only person in the crew that I think would do this, but like I think because Arlong Park happened and how significant that was on Luffy's actions and Nami's past, that her death would really hit home so bad that the crew would probably not be able to stick together after this. All right?
I think so, right? Because Nami was our first sort of, how strong are we really? Because that is when we first think Nami has betrayed us, right? We literally think Usopp has been killed for a second. That is sort of the first big vibe check for the Straw Hats. Like, can we keep this little crew together? And then Usopp is the second big one, right? With Robin. But Nami is certainly the first vibe check that we need to pass. And because we passed that, and because there was that goddamn panel, that panel is so good. Nami with the straw hat just saying thank you. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
At this point, they would all break up. And they would go their separate ways. Like, I don't think that'll happen for every single one of the Straw Hats. But with this one, I'm saying...
If either Nami or Robin dies, the journey ends. If Robin dies, I think instantly. And it's not just because Robin is one of my favorite characters. I think the fact that Robin said, I want to live, take me to sea with you, and Luffy did that, and then he failed, I think instantly. I think for Luffy, that's it. I think Luffy fully realizes what he did in that moment. He gave her a reason to live. And then that reason got her killed, you know?
Saying it is a breakup condition. I'm going through the rest of the Straw Hats right now in my head just to see if there's any others. Now, the moment with Robin was also very significant because they had something similar at Enies Lobby. So maybe
with Robin, I think it's
but,
instant.
Like, it's just the idea that Nami was there since like the very beginning. Like when Zoro and Luffy set out to sea from Shellstown, they were in a little dinghy and they had no idea what they were doing, and they had no concept of what it really means to have an actual functional pirate crew. Like, Luffy knew, like, in an ambiguous sense, in, like, you know, a metaphorical sense, what it means to be a pirate. You know, the kind of pirate he wanted to be. And Zoro fought pirates, so he knows. But when it comes to the actual practicality of... having a ship.
I think if they didn't like meet Nami so quickly, Luffy would just drown. Like something would happen to that small boat. Zoro would be like, so what do we do now? And then he'd look around and Luffy's just drowning. And that's it. That's where One Piece ends.
And sailing it around and navigating and keeping everyone together as like a military unit, kind of in a sense. You know, it's like, hey, you go over there and do that or we're all gonna die. It's like, yes, ma'am, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, Nami's the one that really brought all this together. Like, okay, yeah, clearly neither of you know anything about what it is to be a pirate or how to be in a pirate cruise, so I have to be the one to, like, tell you guys and organize everything out, right? Yeah. I don't know. Let me know how you feel about this down below. Let me know how you think the Straw Hats would handle this. But I think this would be a moment where I think this would break them up. You know what? Honestly, it might happen with Robin and maybe some other Straw Hats when we actually sit down and talk about the other Straw Hats. But I think this might be the worst one. Like, I think this might be the most...
I think from an emotional damage perspective, I think Nami is the worst one. I think Robin is a close second. And then I think either Sanji or Zoro, because of their duo dynamic, which I think would hit really, really hard. Chopper would also be bad. With the rest, it's sort of... Because Frankie's a weird one. Frankie got nuked. Like, Frankie literally blew up, and he was fine. So, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Usopp is also an odd one, because I think Usopp would genuinely be like him becoming a legend in his death. And then Brook is already dead. I think Brook would be the lightest, in a weird sense. I think Brook's death would be even lighter, or maybe no. Because no, like, Brook spent so much time alone, and he had literally no purpose for existing at all, and then Luffy found him and gave him a purpose. No, Brook wouldn't be the easiest one. Because, like, obviously I want to say, well, Brook has lived for, like, infinitely longer than all of them, even before he died, and now he's been alive as a skeleton for however many years, right? The rest of the crew is very young. So, there's that angle. But I don't think it's that simple. Oh my god. Well, I don't want to think about this anymore.
Devastating death to the point of the crew disbanding out of all of them. We'll have to just see as we cover the rest of the Straw Hats in turn. But that's my initial viewpoints on actually talking about this right now, right? Yeah, as for the Straw Hats themselves, I mean, Luffy would go back home to Fuchsia. Sanji would go back to the Baratier like a broken man.
I think he would. I think Sanji after this returns to Baratier and just does the dishes. I don't think he'd even cook anymore. I think it'd be that sort of thing, where he just gives up completely. He just washes the dishes and that's it. Oh no.
Oh my god, you could even go darker with it with Sanji. You could even go like, I don't know if he would even do, you know, the idea that like, so Sanji was worried that he became this emotionless being during Wano. What if the death of Nami would kind of let Sanji yield to that, in a sense, where Sanji would yield to the idea like, I don't even want to feel anything anymore, man. I kind of wish I was like my brothers, and I don't even have to worry about these feelings.
Oh, yeah, it is just him disassociating and him being like, yo, you know what? Maybe they were right. Maybe they were right. Maybe me, being the flesh and blood human and not the cold warrior of science, is what got her killed. What if I was faster? What if I took down Queen faster and made it over there? Oh, no. Oh, no.
Anymore of like this remorse, this guilt, all these things weighing me down. If I could just discard that, like Sanji might have a really
honestly, I think there is another dimension here where Sanji becomes a cold warrior of science and goes on a warpath and literally stops war, like literally stops everything in the world because of what has happened. My guy gets his own military and is just like, you know what? That's it. We're gonna enact peace. This is never happening again, you know?
Really interesting arc after this. Like, really sad kind of arc after this. Not even like...
It's that, or he just returns to Baratier and does the dishes alone. Always sad. Forever. Which...
Not even like...
I don't know which one you prefer.
Like a heel turn kind of arc. Like, Sanji becomes evil. It's more of just like...
That's what I said. Like, he just becomes like, you know what? If we lost her, then I'm gonna make sure no one ever loses anyone ever again.
Just becomes dejected and discards his humanity. Sanji has a Dio arc without becoming a villain kind of thing. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. But it'd be rough. It'd be rough for all of them. Once again, here at the end, I feel like I should say, and many people in the comments have probably already said it, that, you know, Oda would never do this. Oda's never going to kill off Nami. And yeah, you're right. He's never going to do that. I mean, I guess we can't be 100% sure that he wouldn't ever do that. From if this video is any example of it, going through all these options and what ifs and hypotheticals, it would definitely hit home.
Man, if Oda writes any of these, he better write some fire, because imagine killing off one of the Straw Hats. I really hope Tekking does go through all of them, because I want to spend hours talking about this, because the sheer emotional devastation this would bring up if Oda doesn't stick it, and it's not like this literally breaks everything. Oh man. Oh man. I genuinely think this might be a case where people drop One Piece. You know? Like, if someone dies and they don't feel that it's justified, I think people literally could drop it. Like, if you really like the character that dies, I think this might be a Walking Dead situation. I'm being 100% genuine. I think someone who has read 1,000 chapters seeing their favorite character die, I think it literally might be you know what? I'm out. That's it. I wouldn't even be surprised.
But I don't think he would do that, because that would, I think, be a really big downer to end his manga. So it's obviously never going to happen. But to think about it, which is the whole point of this series, like, okay, probably never going to happen. All the Straw Hats are going to make it through probably fine. But what if they didn't? That's the whole point of this. So hope you guys, I don't even know if I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys found the video watchable. How about that? All right. Anyway, next time we're going to be looking at Usopp, and if he were to die, a lot of different aspects to cover with Usopp's character being a brave warrior of the sea and all. So we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about that next week. But yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Tekking signing out.
All right, that was very, very morbid.
It's
What?
orange bubbly. I didn't even plan that, actually.
That was very, very morbid. That was very, very morbid. So TLDR, what we've learned. If Nami dies, kinda GG. Kinda GG. I think the story basically ends there. So, is Nami gonna die? Almost certainly not. However, that is what I also thought about Ace. So, you never know. I'll link the video in chat. A very good video. Wait, hold on. Let me actually check whether the Usopp one is already out.